Hey, welcome back to Hopper's Hot Rods. We're in this leaky old warehouse, and we're going to see if we can revive the old Bronco. I'm not sure about the fuel system. It never has brakes. Probably doesn't have a battery, but it's complete, and it's just been sitting for kind of a long time. So let's check all the fluids, air up the tires, see if it'll roll, see if it'll stop. No. Start the music. Let's give this thing a quick once over. What does Derek say? We drink it in with our peepers. Tires are a little low, but they are a little crunchy, but not the worst. This thing has amazingly no rust. It's a V8 model. They might have all been a V8 model. Let's see if we can pop this and see if there's any. Oh, original poverty caps. I don't see any big engine parts. That doesn't surprise me. I have a little bit of knowledge about this rig already. Here's the problem, probably. 2 gas tanks, both of them full of Jello. When gas sits for a really long time, it goes cruddy. This is the luxurious interior. You can tell it was a non-smoking car. Let's see here. Cruise control. What's that? Lane assist. This is one of those models. The headlights will automatically go off after about 4 hours of sitting there and the battery's dead. Cool breather. It's pretty much bone stock. I like this cool deal here. I wonder what this is. Like a compartment or something. To investigate that. It's only on one side. And it's got the hang-on air conditioning system. It'd be amazing if that works. I mean, that's probably, I wonder if that's a factory option or if that's one of those J.C. Whitney add-ons. The way it's run through there. We will find out. Were these things even available with air conditioning? It's got the old AM cassette player. Nice. We'll have some tunes going. Dash pad. Dash is in a little rough shape, but overall this thing is in great shape. There's normally none of this is here. It's all just rust. But this thing has been kept inside, safe from most of the elements. It's had a drip on the hood, but let's pop the power barn and see what we got going on under the hoodie. Yep, that's an engine. Over here. All right. There's a battery in here. I wonder if it's any good. Put that on boil. We've got the fuel injection with the sump here. We've got some completage, but there's some fuel lines missing. I'll show you. But I remember now, we had to steal some of the lines and fittings to make the green Challenger run, so we didn't have to order them because we were on a time thing. We just stole parts off of this one. So step 1 is going to be make a fuel line. This is our high pressure, obviously. Then we will test the mechanical fuel pump because it feeds this sump, and then test this to here, flush it out of any old gas, get it running off of a gas can like before, and check everything else. Check the lightning hoses and the points and the plugs and oil filters covered with rust. I can't believe it. I'm not sure what this is or why it's like this, but I think we need to figure that out too. So fuel lines flush this system, then figure out the wiring, and I believe we'll have it up and running so we can check everything else. We'll start by charging the battery. Well, the good news is the battery looks like it's taking a charge. The bad news is that now memories come rushing back. The wiring is a little suspect on this thing. This is not how this is supposed to be wired. And I am not quick to slam anybody else's mechanical work. Whoever installed this originally, I remember they didn't block off the heat risers on the intake, so I had to do that. I don't remember how they had just hooked this throttle rod in here somewhere, because there's no threads, I think they had a pin in it, and that's that. So we got to figure out something better for that. The fuel line's got to have to come off the back of here, root around and come here. But before we make up a fuel line, we first put the breather on and make sure that it doesn't require a 45 or a 90-degree angle. Because if we go to the trouble of making a line and it sticks out, and then the breather won't fit on there, then we have another problem. So let's test fit that. Also, there are vacuum caps missing from the back here. The timed vacuum is where the distributor traditionally is connected, but it's connected to the manifold with this little guy here, and it's got two vacuum lines that go to the vacuum advance. And I'm not familiar with a vacuum advance that has two vacuum lines, so I'm gonna have to do a little Googling to figure out if this is some sort of timed check ball or something that they both go to this thing. We got to figure that puzzle out, because that may or may not be correct. It looks like it was that way from the factory, but it might just look that way. We need to double check it and make sure we have everything capped off that needs to be capped off here, and this one is loose here too. Then we can spin it over, check the fluids, and see if it'll start. Well, I gotta say, the hits keep coming with this thing. I found part of the wiring harness was wrapped around the steering column here, and this was pulled out of this modular plug. And this is the wire for the fuel pump. All this wiring has to be tidied up and run in a neater way. This laying it right here is not going to work. It's just not going to work. I don't know what they were doing. Again, not slamming anybody's working. I'm not crazy about where they put the O2 sensor. I'll show you when I go under there. All these discoveries have distracted us from what we were going to do. I emptied all the acorns and stuff out of this thing. There was quite a bit of debris. I'm going to put a new air filter on there for sure. But this is the part that goes over the, what used to be a carburetor. So it looks to me like we can use any kind of fitting we want. That bolt's over there somewhere. So yep, we can come off that with a straight fitting, no problem. And the plot thickens over here with this jumble of wires, but this is a fuel pump block-off plate, which means there is probably an electric fuel pump in line somewhere back here under this rig. So we have to find that, disconnect that, and see if it still works or if it's full of junk, and that'll be where we tie in our low pressure line. Let's see what happens there. It's entirely possible I'm over prepared. I got different lengths of fuel hose. I've got lots of fittings. Ones that can go to compression line, there's like stock steel line, and straight fittings. I got elbows, 45s. Better to be prepared than to, not be. So let me get this one fuel line made up, and we'll pull the other one line off of there. I can cut that. It's really coming down out there. All right, let's get under this rig and show you what I'm looking at here. We got, wait, there's the front, and this is the gas tank. And I'm not sure how well you can see it, but it's definitely leaking out some kind of yucky jello looking stuff. The other fuel tank looks like it's, well, let me try to keep you oriented, Craig. There's the rear, and it's back there. You can't really see it too well. But on the inner frame rail, up here, somebody has installed the old classic AutoZone Special EP something. It just stands for electric pump, and it's probably a 7 PSI pump. So we got a couple of options. We could take the fuel line loose from up there, drop it down, turn the key on, and see if this will pump those tanks completely empty. But then that's going to put whatever's in the tank in the filter and run our own fuel tank in the back so this thing can get across town and drive somewhere where they feel like dropping those tanks and cleaning them out and fixing that valve that goes in between them. But if it works, we might just run our own tank from here, and yeah, that might. Anyway, this is what we've discovered. We got to find out if this is going to work. That's where we are on it. Let's see what happens. With option 2, disconnect the fuel line and put it in a gas can and see if it draws fuel up and pumps it out. See what happens there. Okay, so this will be the first in our list of terrible ideas. I cracked this loose already. It wasn't just finger tight. Contact. Let's connect the battery. Okay, connected the battery. Let's try it again. I can actually hear a little purring sound. I'm going to trace this back and make sure I've got the right one disconnected. What if this is the vent hose, you know? We're back from O'Reilly's. We've got our hose clamps. We've got our vacuum caps. We got oil and an oil filter. We got a gas can. Now we can get this thing running. I need a piece of fuel line, but I have plenty of that laying around here somewhere, I think. I just need a couple of feet. I'll take one off of another car if I have to. Okay, back to, let's see if we can get this fuel pump working. We now have a temporary fuel system. Well, here's what I've come up with for the high pressure line. We're gonna start here. We're gonna go under the factory jack, which lives in this beautiful leatherette traveling case. Go through the broken zip tie, which we'll replace. Above the steering linkage, under the brake master cylinder, under the throttle linkage, make sure we're clear of all the throttle linkage, and then back up like this. And that keeps it away from the exhaust, keeps it away from all moving parts. And I think that's gonna be a decent routing. And we'll leave a little extra hose, so if we do need to change how it's routed, we can, go this way and shorten it or whatever we decide we wanna do. But I think that will look, it's gonna be fine. So let's snip it here. Here's the snippers. Well, I hope we like it here because that's where it is now. I'm gonna turn the key. You tell me if either of these hoses squirt some fuel out. Here's some extra light. There you go. Contact. I gotta say, that looks promising. Bleeding, crawling underneath this thing, just so much fun. If you've never assembled these push lock type hoses, they are so convenient. We just get a little lubricant, little motor oil will do just fine, and then you just simply push. Ow. And action. Take 22. We can now connect our new push lock -6AN fitting onto our command center. That's what they call this thing. Be sure not to use a metric adjustable wrench on a standard fitting. So make sure you get the standard, not the metric. Just in case, you know. You don't have to over tighten these. I actually like using a big crescent wrench because it's wide and you can get it super tight tolerance. Where a narrow wrench might kind of mark up the fittings. You can round these things off pretty easily, so I like to use a nice big crescent wrench there. Now we'll take the other end, stick it in our waste fuel bucket here, and make sure we can see it. We will energize the fuel pump wire, make sure we got a ground, and see if there's any bad gas in this. We'll squirt it out. Then we will fill it with our low pressure until we have nice clean fuel coming out. So let's give that a try. Just to keep it exciting, I've got the alligator clip on the positive lead for the fuel pump, but I've got it here where it might accidentally bump something metal and create a spark while we're squirting high pressure fuel out. So let's see if this thing even works. Contact. Ooh, that's hot. I turned the key on to let it put low fuel pressure into this thing so it would have something to pump out in case that was the problem. But whenever I touch the hot lead to the battery, this wire starts getting hot really quickly. There's a little click inside here, but there's no sound like there's any pumping going on, and the gauge does not move at all. I think we have a bad fuel pump here, which kind of sucks because this is a one whole big unit. It's easy enough to replace, but it's probably not cheap. I'm going to double check it, triple test it, make sure that these hoses are connected the way they're supposed to be before I determine this thing is no good. But so far this thing looks like it's locked up, and it could be from debris getting pumped into it from the tank or just sitting and going bad. I don't know. We will have to have a look at this, but something's going on with this thing here, I believe, because there's no reason that the wire should get hot that quickly. I mean, there's no fuse or anything. I'm running it straight to the battery, but we'll figure it out. Well, there's no reason to prevaricate about the bush any longer. This fuel pump that you can't see, this high pressure pump in this aftermarket Command Center 2 is completely locked up. I can't get anything to come out of it, and I'm running it straight to the battery, positive and negative. So I checked online, a replacement pump, it's a high volume pump. You can get one from Summit for about $100. The Command Center costs like $300 or $400. So it's got an internal regulator and it's built really nice and makes for a nice remote thing. But we could have put an inline high pressure pump and a regulator on this thing for $200. At any rate, this is convenient. It'd be easy to switch back to a carburetor if you did want to do that. So let's go ahead and pull this off, pull it open, look at this pump, see if it's cracked or something, and make sure we can order one that's a good replacement. predictably, it's like dark iced tea, but this is the real problem. Look at all the corrosion. I don't know if that's E85 or if it's just from sitting for a long time, but this thing is in terrible shape. All the connections are good, nothing's burnt, but this is nasty, buddy. All right, so we're gonna replace this fuel pump and get this thing back on the road. I'm gonna see if I can get a light and let you see the bottom of this thing. It's got all that crud that came out of those old gas tanks. Maybe it got run without a fuel filter when they first started switching it over, but it's just, it's bad. It's gotta be cleaned out. So I gotta scrub this all out, a little carburetor cleaner, and put the new fuel pump in. And you know, if it gets started once a month, maybe it wouldn't do that, but that's pretty nasty. Old yucky gas. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for this episode of the Bronco. I have to order that fuel pump, and even in today's instantaneous shipping, that'll take a minute. So we're going to sign off on the Bronco for this episode, but the next episode, since we have a pretty good clue everything that it needs, which is basically fuel and ignition, I think we're going to run and drive it next time, unless it doesn't have brakes. Oh, thanks for watching.